Hi, I'm Randy Jeffers, and we are live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, this is a really special show, and you might want to get out your pen and paper because you're going to get a lot of information, and some of it is life-changing, and you might just want to write it down. But our special guest here is Dr. Bill Singh, and it is just what an honor to have you here, Dr. Bill. You and I have become friends, and I think you might be the smartest guy I know.
Oh, thank you, Randy.
But you have a lab here in Las Vegas called Quick Biodiagnostics.
Yes.
And that's a blood lab, right?
Yes, we do blood work, drug screening, and some DNA work.
Okay, and it's an amazing facility. I had my blood tested, and last week, as a matter of fact, and so far so good. Everything you said, I'm going to live for another day or two. But tell us a little bit about what you do with in the lab.
Well, we started this laboratory about 2 years ago. A friend of mine put in a lot of money to get the lab going. I just work as a technical director there, and run the tests and do all the technical stuff. And we have a lot of walk-ins, but primarily we do a lot of insurance work.
Mm-hmm.
And we can test several different panels, like liver panel, cardiovascular panel, and general blood work, blood chemistry, hormones, and especially for men and women, pre and post-menopausal. And we could direct them to the right direction if they are missing something. And lately we have started collaborating with A4M, which is one of the largest institute in the United States. It's a anti-aging society. And
let me just stop for 1 second, and let me just say to everybody that's listening right now, remember this, okay? We're going to talk about it in a little bit as soon as Bill explains some of the other things that he's doing. But remember these two words, stem cells, okay? Stem cells. You don't want to miss this, so stay tuned. Okay, Bill, sorry.
So with F4M, we are beginning to do a metabolic panel there, which has about 72 different analytes, primarily hormones and most of the blood work. And we can, basically looking at all those 72 biomarkers, we could tell whether you are on a healthy aging path or you are going in an adverse path. So
Wow.
if you are going in a different direction, which is not good for your, especially when you are aging, then we could recommend you to special physicians and nutritionists who could hopefully treat you right and give the right direction.
Now, there's an old saying that, we are what we eat, right? How
Absolutely.
true is that statement?
It is very true. I think especially now a lot of people are dependent on processed foods.
Yeah.
And we really need to change our eating habits, go and stay away from a lot of the processed foods and toxic stuff that we consume. Especially if we eat a lot of meat, we consume a lot of antibiotics with it, which are not very healthy for us, and we need to change our lifestyles a little bit.
Yeah.
And by doing these 72 analytes, we can determine whether you have certain toxicities in your system, and then we could recommend some detoxification methods.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you're doing an amazing job there at the lab, and that's just something that everybody needs, of course, on a regular. How often really should somebody get their blood tested?
I would say at least every 6 months.
Okay.
But your physician would decide whether you need earlier if he sees some symptoms that you have when you go visit him or her. Then he could recommend special testing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other labs like LabCorp and Quest who can test you as well, but we're there.
Yeah, and now is it something that you need a doctor's prescription for? Or
Yes,
can you,
we do.
Can you,
We do need a prescription from the physician,
Okay.
because he would be the one who will tell you which tests you really need to get done.
They'll do the
Yeah,
analysis.
yes, but there are people who want to do it just for their information. Then we have on board a physician who would recommend a blank general panel.
Okay.
And for example, when we do testing for A4M, it's their physicians, for example, in a sports clinic, they would ask us to do some panels because their clients are taking hormones for bodybuilding and all that. So
Right.
we need to monitor them, what kind of hormones they're taking, are they being misused, or they're good for them or not.
Well, before we get into stem cells, and I want to keep saying that because it is like, I think it's the most exciting subject that I've ever thought about. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about you. Now, either I have the accent or you do. I'm not sure which.
Well, I think I have, because I was born in India, and I have a very mixed accent, and I'm basically a nomadic. I was born in India, went to England when I was an 18-year-old kid, rather naive, especially scientifically. I really didn't know much. So I started working at Burroughs Wellcome, which was a very big international pharmaceutical company, and I was lucky to get into the team where there were people who invented interferon medicines. There were people who discovered Zovirax, for example, the anti-herpes cream. So I was lucky to be associated with them.
Wow.
And that was a time where I was lucky to get to work with them. So I was there with them for about 10 years, and then worked with a small pharmaceutical company in London, which is Beecham, which became later part of SmithKline.
Yeah.
So when I came to United States, I ended up with SmithKline, SmithKline Beecham, and then that became GlaxoSmithKline, and then it became Wellcome, SmithKline, Glaxo Wellcome, and all mixture of everything.
A lot of mergers,
So
I guess.
there is no more Wellcome, there is no more SmithKline of its own. So it's a merger of 3-4 different companies. So I happened to work with them for 5-6 years,
Wow.
and did a lot of research, as well as produced a lot of biologicals, vaccines, and different biologicals.
Well, one of the things that I'm sure that you know about, and probably we don't want to talk, some things we don't want to talk about on this show, but you've had access to a lot of things that are being studied and researched, and things that make the future look pretty bright, right?
Well, I think pharmaceutical companies are really involved in a lot of state-of-the-art technology, developing new formulations, discovering new medicines, but lately, I think, if you guys remember the discovery of penicillin, which happened in 1928, I think the stem cells and things like PRP are now of the same caliber, and these things don't happen every day in science.
Yeah, they're rare. Well, penicillin, for instance, was before that we had
It was a miracle.
silver, right?
It was a miracle. People used to die. It's penicillin was a miracle, and it was just God given to us, and it was just a discovery. The guy came into his lab and he saw something, and that became penicillin.
It's amazing.
And I happened to work with Smith Beecham Pharmaceuticals, and my first week was so exciting that I used to walk in and then see the 6 APA molecule that was, Beecham was the pioneer in manufacturing penicillin first.
Wow.
And they had taken over all the technology from the university there and developed it. And they're still very famous. Beecham is still very famous for cephalosporins and augmentin, like if you remember using augmentin, which is, I personally did a lot of work on augmentin. Augmentin is a combination of 2 drugs where people come across resistant bacteria, and when you have that second part in it, that resistance goes away.
Wow.
So it makes penicillin more efficient. And we have, especially if we have infections in children, ear infections, trust me, Augmentin is the only one that works there.
Really?
Yes.
My goodness. So you made it to the United States, and I'm assuming you were in New York probably, right?
I came to the United States in '83,
Uh-huh.
and I started a postdoc work at NYU Medical Center in the Department of Pathology. And again, I was very lucky. I happened to work with the premier immunologist. You know, and it was a great group, and we did a lot of publications. Then, at the same time, I started working with Merck Sharp and Dohme, the big pharmaceutical in Rahway, New Jersey, and worked with them for about 6-7 years, and learned a lot of immunology there, especially working with parasite immunology.
Wow. And then, so how did you get to Las Vegas?
I got married to a lady here, and that's why I ended up here. And
That'll
then
do it. Love will do it, huh?
Then started this laboratory back about 2 years ago, and I worked with the local diagnostic lab for a few years, and did some consulting work for a couple of years. But then I had the opportunity to set up this lab.
Wow. Well, let's fast forward to the present time right now, because I happen to know that you are onto something that is just so big, so exciting, so state-of-the-art, incredible. Tell us about what's about to happen.
Well, like I said earlier, I think things like these discoveries do not happen every day. In science, penicillin was one memorable thing that every scientist or doctor can remember. And the benefits we have gained from that discovery. And I think stem cell technology is also of that sort of level where you can use these cells to cure basically anything and improve your lifestyle. And it's more applicable in aging phenomena. When you get old, your body's defense mechanism go down, you are more prone to diseases, and I think stem cell technology would definitely help them. It won't reverse the aging process, but it certainly would slow down and make your system more competent like you were in your 30s or 40s and fight off the disease.
Very interesting. Well, let's just say this before we go back and talk about how all that works, but it's very likely, if all goes well, that you're going to have this special lab that's going to be able to do amazing things with people, with a whole team of world-class scientists and doctors that are going to do things that seem like they're science fiction. They just, it doesn't seem possible. But we are at a place now where the impossible has become the possible, right?
Absolutely. I think, like I said earlier, I think this technology is already proven to be very helpful. We would have made tremendous progress in this area if we had not faced the regulatory restrictions on this technology, which were very reasonable too, because you have to prevent people from doing things that are in science can tempt the scientists to do things that you don't want, especially on religious grounds and all that. So the embryo stem cells obtained from embryos were basically stopped for many years. Even George Bush did not open up to that.
It was politically.
It was more of a religious thing, that scientists might produce, clone the babies, and do all kind of different things.
Right.
And as a result, I think countries like South Korea went ahead of us. They really developed the technology far more than we had. But we have caught up now. I think there are a lot of clinics out there in the U.S. who are practicing, especially the physician people. They are really using on a small scale, using different kinds of stem cells, from stem cells taken from cord blood, sometimes taken from your own cells, like what we call autologous cells, stem cells, and they're proving very, very useful.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that stem cells might be able to do. I know for men, probably growing hair, balding is really, I mean, that's a huge industry, right, with all these
Absolutely.
products that probably most of them don't work, but can stem cells work there?
It has been shown. There is a lot of, basically a ton of literature that actually shows that the stem cells can help you regrow your hair. So what you do is you take stem cells either from cord blood or your own stem cells and put them back in the area where you need to grow your hair, inject them, and then people have shown that the hair grow pretty good. I have actually seen personally a colleague of mine, he had gone bald and now he has a head full of hair.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you can train these stem cells. How, what does that mean, and how would that work?
The stem cells actually, everybody has stem cells in their system. But, when you are in your early 20s, I think the ratio of stem cells per total body cells is pretty high, very high, like 1 in 20,000 or something. But as you grow old, the ratio decreases. You know, you have more cells. Stem cells ratio is 1 in 40 million or something.
Oh, wow.
You know? So I don't think necessarily that the number goes down, but they get restricted in their homes wherever they are in a particular organ because of several factors in the body. Your body produces disease itself. The inflammatory response in your body can stop the cells moving out to do their job, and also a lot of the toxicity in your body, which we build up by eating all that junk.
Yeah.
And so they are basically stopped in their tracks in there. They can't move out of their homes and go and hit the diseased area or the affected area. So there are technologies available now where these cells can be moved out, taken out, and helped a little bit to grow. Stem cells are basically very naive cells. They have not developed. They don't produce any markers on them, but we can train them to go to a specific tissue. For example, you can grow them into skin cells, you can grow them into neurons. So there's a lot of possibility of taking care of diseases like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. And then you could go into direct them to the skin area or breast area. You could actually do breast enhancements without surgery.
My goodness.
And there are a lot of people who are now suffering from erectile dysfunction, and that is another area where stem cells have been proved very, very helpful, very useful, and treat the disease.
So you actually can become younger in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is going to revolutionize the field.
Now, how about anti-aging? That's a term that gets used by a lot of things and with a lot of products that probably don't do anything for you, but does stem cells work with that?
Well, I really want to point out to everybody, if people are listening, aging is not a disease by itself. It's a process that we all undergo. Our cells get old because of the wear and tear, overuse or even underuse can make you old.
Yeah.
And these are the cells that actually were naturally built in as a backup so that they could go and replace the old cells or the disease area, treat those areas. So now we have the technology that we could actually do them ourselves.
So let's talk about
rather than rely on natural, body defense mechanisms.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about how that process works. I think there are probably a lot of ways that you can have stem cells in your body. One of the ways is by using cord blood, for instance, right?
Yeah, you could get stem cells, isolate them from cord blood,
Now this is not from an aborted baby or anything like that.
This is just a delivery. At the time of delivery, you could collect blood from the cord blood, and process.
This is the part that you throw away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is nothing to do with the embryos or aborted fetuses, or where people might get concerned. This is just cord blood. But we can also isolate cells from your own tissues. For example, fat tissue in your belly. You could take out a lot of fat and get the cells out of there. There's a reasonable number of cells there. You could actually isolate cells from your blood. Mm-hmm. And now there are people who are using some nutritional materials to increase the number of stem cells in your circulation. So they put you on a certain treatment and then take blood out of you and isolate the cells and use those cells to treat you.
It's amazing. I have a friend that his knees went out on him, and that's pretty common. When you get to a certain age, I think a lot of guys have to have knee surgery, and that's a pretty nasty surgery. All kinds of scars, and I was talking to him, and somehow the subject came up, and he says, "Well, I just had 2 cc's of stem cells that."
This is the cord stem cells from cord blood.
He had them injected into each knee, and no surgery. It did something. What did it do in there to make him be able to walk again?
Well, I think there are 2 things the stem cells can do. They can rejuvenate your chondrocytes in there, and if it is done properly, you could basically rejuvenate the whole younger knee that you had 20 years ago.
It sort of regrows it back.
Regrows it back and mobilizes the area. I want to show you a very good example which we did recently. And this is a 29-year-old female patient who came into the clinic. She had sliced her thumb. I don't know if people can see this picture.
Yeah, let's just hold it up so you can see it. So she
sliced her thumb, and you can see the size of the wound on the thumb. She is almost about whole upper part of the thumb that's sliced off. We treated this patient with PRP and stem cells, and you can see that after about 6 weeks, if you look at the progress of the lesion here.
It went back to normal.
Yeah.
Right?
It basically, I want to show you the picture after 6 weeks of that patient. Why is it not moving?
We should probably print out those pictures.
Yeah, and you can see after 4 weeks that the size of the lesion is gone really at least for 60% smaller.
Let's see if we can blow that up. There it is.
It's healed very well.
Yeah.
And at the end of 6 weeks, we can't even see we can see a little bit of a. But let's see. So it's very effective. It can be done. It's really very useful technology.
So it almost grows.
It grows. It can grow. Basic part of it is that it grows your own cells. It begins to stimulate them, and then they begin to treat the disease.
Amazing. I had a friend that he broke his back about 18 years ago, and he was in pain every day, intense pain. And even so much that in the afternoons, around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, he'd have to lay down on the floor just to alleviate some of that pain. He took a cord blood stem cell injection, just 1 cc, and for him, the next day, his pain was gone. This is after 18 years of everyday pain.
Well, I think when Andy is talking about 1 cc, he means a certain number of cells, maybe 500,000 or 2 million.
I think it was 5 million.
5 million in 1 cc. So that is very, very impressive. That's very impressive.
It seems for pain it works. It's just like it's the solution.
people like to see the evidence. I think here it is like this. We took pictures at the time the thumb was sliced, and then 6 weeks later we saw the thumb was healing very well. And so there's the proof. With something like pain, you have to rely on the patient and see, because the only readout is that patient says he doesn't have pain. And I like to believe that there is a proper readout for the result of any treatment that you do. So I think with things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, you see changes in the cognitive symptoms, and if there is improvement, that definitely tells you that these cells are working.
Dr. Bill, things are just so rapidly increasing. The knowledge is doubling. I forget how, but so quickly, and all these new scientific advances that are happening in the field of medicine. I mean, what's the future going to be like? How great can it be?
I think my personal feeling is that stem cell is going to be the end game.
Really?
I don't think we'll have a more miraculous discovery after this. I mean, we can basically replace, regenerate body parts. And there is no limit what you can do with this technology. And I'm really excited, to join this team and start doing some wonderful things.
It's just, it's mind-boggling. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem, even when you tell the story about the growing the thumb back, it just doesn't seem real. But
nobody will believe it. But we have that, and we're trying to write up this and publish it. And we are, I think we can't talk about here. We're doing some experiments that are really wonderful. They're worth talking, but once we have published them,
then we'll have you back, and you can tell us all about them.
Absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
We can go wow.
Yes.
You know.
No, I'm looking forward for this project to kick off. And
so, let me ask you a question, Dr. Bill. How long should us humans really live? Right, right now, not back in Methuselah's day, but right now. I mean, how long should we live?
There are. I come from India, and if you look at some of the history, there are stories that people lived for 200 years, and they were healthy and well. And now, looking at technologies like stem cell technologies, it looks like very real. And I wouldn't be surprised if we begin to live to 140.
Wow.
Or even beyond, and healthy. That's the important part. Just living as an old man is no fun. But you have to be healthy. It has to be quality of life.
So I've had for many years now my life planned out to 120. And that's only so I can see my grandkids, because I started late.
140.
So I can extend that now.
20 years, yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, in the past 10 years, I think, or 20 years, we have increased the lifespan by at least 2 decades.
Really?
10 to 20 years. People are living longer now with the existing technology, without stem cells. And once the stem cells, technology gets into full high gear, it's going to be wonderful.
Now, is that for young kids or babies that are being born right now, or how about somebody that's older right now?
Well, I think that it has more importance for older people, older population, and with the younger population, its significance would be we would be able to treat diseases. There will be some genetic diseases that they have. We'll be able to fix them.
So, are there any drawbacks? What's on the negative side of it?
There are drawbacks, definitely. One bigger drawback that I always fear is the misuse of the technology. The scientists are always crazy. They could create a lot of things with it, and that could be scary. But I really don't see if the technology is used properly without too much of genetic modifications. It can be very useful. It has very limited side effects, especially if the stem cells are taken from your own system and then put back into you to help them to grow to the right area, go to the right area and proliferate there and do what they need to do. I cannot imagine any side effects there.
Wow.
There are possibilities that with some of the allogenic cells that you are taken from a different individual and then put it into, you have issues with transplantation. You know, I'm sure people are familiar with tissue rejection,
Yeah.
transplantation of heart and kidneys. You know, you
Right,
have to
right.
then go for different immunosuppressive agents like cyclosporin and rapamycin and all that. And but in your own, with your own cells, I see really no disadvantages, no side effects. And then I mentioned the word rapamycin. Rapamycin is another antibiotic. It was actually discovered by a fellow Indian person with American Home Products, and he died before he could see the real fruits of it, Dr. Suren Sagla. But this particular medicine is now being used for enhancing age. And in animals, it has increased age very significantly. And but there are no human studies yet. It hasn't been tested with humans, but it has really produced very promising results in animals.
Let me ask you a question.
Double or triple the life in mice.
Wow.
Yes.
Double or triple. I saw a video of a fellow who was treated by somebody that we know that in another country, but he had lost his sight. He had 2% of his vision left. He had lost 98% of his vision, and they extracted from the bone marrow in the breastbone the stem cells, and they did whatever they did, and maybe we can talk about that in a minute. But they did 5 treatments into the socket behind the eye, and when it was all said and done, after he was healed and healed up and everything had been finished up, I saw a video of him driving a car for the first time. Now, is that really possible?
I think there are more success stories with stem cells, and I have heard more success stories with macular degeneration. It is possible. I think if it's done right, and it can work. You know, I think people must have read a lot of stories where there were 3 ladies who got blind, and I don't think it was stem cells that made them blind. It was probably some technique that they used. Bad injection or damage of the nerve or something by doing the manipulation of doing the procedure itself. So I don't think it's the stem cells, and although I don't know the details and nobody probably would know what exactly was done, although we hear that there were cases people got seriously sick.
Well, I heard there was one case in Florida. I understand.
Yeah.
And I think there was. I think you're right. I think there might have been more to that. But,
Yes.
But how about somebody like, the actor Michael J. Fox that has a terrible disease? Would stem cells help there? Do you think?
Well, I'm sure it could have. There are several things. One is the stage of the disease. If you're really at a terminal stage, I wonder if we still have to see how much benefit you could get from stem cells at a really late stage. 2, I think when people like Michael Fox and then the other actor, what was his name? That guy, Batman.
Superman?
Superman, yeah.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve.
Christopher Reeve. And in those cases, I think our regulations were so stringent. People didn't really look at the stem cell technology that closely.
Yeah, this has all happened in the last 2 or 3 years, right?
No, longer than that.
Longer.
We're talking about 15 years or 20 years.
No, but where
Oh yeah,
there's all this
I
advances.
think it has caught a lot of speed in the past 5 to 6 years, and after those cases, and I think people like Michael Fox and they're really investing heavily in this technology, and they're encouraging, and I hope they get some benefits out of it.
Absolutely. So we have this new technology, and it's very likely or possible that there might be this incredible research center here in Las Vegas,
Exactly.
where there will be people coming from all over the world
Yes.
for treatment, to be able to have these sort of miraculous things happen in their life. And
Well, we're making the right moves to get this place going, and hopefully in the next 6 months or so, we'll have this running.
We might have you back on, and you'll be able to make the
Sure,
announcement.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, it's very exciting.
It's exciting technology. It's just it's a big thing.
Now, is this for people that only have diseases and sicknesses, or is it just for how about a healthy person?
Well, I really don't think there is much a healthy person can benefit from anything like that, except maybe if there is a slow, it's a process of aging going on, they want to slow it and improve their quality of life, like somebody has a little bit of knee pain, can't walk or can't get up the stairs, although it's not debilitating, but still it's inconvenient. For them to do the normal life as they used to do 20 or 30 years ago, it might help them. It might help them.
But what if
it can improve the quality of life.
What if you want to live to be 140? I mean, you really want to do that.
Well, that would come. If you really feel that your aging process is getting you feel very old, and part of that is probably your metabolic process is going on in your system and making you old. The stem cells would be the real technique or technology to use there.
Because aging and oldness really doesn't have anything to do with the chronological years. Maybe a little bit, but it's more so all the other.
Or your physiology and the body physiology, how it works. If it can be with stem cells. It can be brought back. In other words, you can slow down the aging process.
Yeah.
I don't think you could stop it totally, but you can slow it down. With medicines like stem cells technology and the rapamycin-like medicines, you can definitely increase life by 20 to 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. As I said, it has been shown in animals. Mice has been shown to live 3-4 times more of their lifespan by using rapamycin, but we haven't really seen anything being done in humans on this.
Well, like a lot of these medical advances, one of the negative things would be the cost. I mean, it costs a lot of money, right?
But I think it's not that if it is done without greed element in it, the technology can be available to common people.
So
because it's simple. If you're taking cells from your own system, it's not a huge cost involved in there. There's some cost, but even though at the front end you may spend more on stem cell technology, but at the back end you have less long-term use of medicines because they cost a lot.
Yeah,
they cost a lot.
So this lab that just might possibly come into being in the next 6 months or so, will it have I don't want to say products, but if you're just a regular working guy, will you be able to go there and get some treatment?
I would think so. That's the whole idea of us doing it. We want to make it available to in an affordable way that anybody can come and get the treatment.
Oh, that's fabulous.
We don't want to make it a greedy adventure. Yeah. Oh, of course, we want to survive and make it run properly with all the requirements that you need to follow, and that costs a lot of money. But our aim is going to be to make it available to common people.
So one of the things I was going to ask you. So when you take the stem cells, let's say you take it out of we use your blood. So you extract some blood out. Then what's the process? What do you actually do with that blood?
We basically separate the red cells out of red blood cells from the white blood cells, and stem cells have certain markers. You could analyze them, look at what percentage of stem cells you have in that. Like I mentioned earlier, our aim is going to be to increase the number of stem cells in your system before you take them out and concentrate them and then put them back.
So you might be taking older stem cells that weren't
The
being
stem cells
affected.
are never old. Stem cells
Oh, okay.
are young. That's the whole beauty of it. You know,
Oh.
they are naive. They nothing has happened to them. They're just designed in your system for working as babies. So we train them to grow in a particular lineage. For example, you have a stem cell population taken from your blood, or from your cord blood, or from fat cells. You can make them grow into all kinds of different, for example, in the skin type of cells, in your neuro cells for the brain, or neurons, or even for the cartilage type of cells, and your heart. These are very important issues. People have shown a lot of success in cases where they have gone heart attack and damaged the heart tissue, and then the heart tissue has been basically replaced by stem cells.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the stem cells can actually become any kind of cell, pretty much.
You can they are trained to they can be trained to go into any particular tissue format.
It's just, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just.
It's
just-
amazing.
It's amazing.
Yes,
to
it is
even think about
definitely
it.
very. But it's been going on. You know, the first stem cell was discovered in 1908,
Wow.
and you know, we really nobody paid that much attention to it. Now there's a need for something like this. People.
It sounds like it is the need.
Yes, it is.
It is
There
the answer.
Definitely is. Definitely is.
So something I've heard is that we have people watching us from all over the country, all over the world, and for those that are expecting to have a baby, and when that baby is born, as I understand it, you can actually take stem cells from the baby and freeze them
Yes.
forever, right?
It's being
Until you
done.
need.
Even it's
Yeah.
done in the third world countries. I mean, they go to people actually. They call stem cell banks, and there are lots of banks being established in almost every country, where they will take the stem cells from their cord blood cells. They save them, they freeze them, and then keep them for future use in case your child needs those cells, and they store them, freeze them for a cost, and you have to pay for those, and then if you need it, you can use them.
So if you have your own baby cells,
Wonderful.
stem cells when you were a baby, it's going to work. Does it work a little bit better
A
than?
little bit better, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, more convenient. Then you don't have to go to look for a source of cells from somewhere. You have your own bank.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and for those that haven't done that,
It's
I
not
do-
that popular yet because it costs money, and I think only upper middle class people can afford to have your cells put in a.
but fortunately,
stem
there's a
cell
lot of babies born every day, and,
Yes.
and those stem cells are extremely effective, as I understand it.
They are, absolutely they are.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about using your own cells, when you were born, and then taking them and use them in case you have a disease and fixing you.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're just about out of time, but it's going to be an amazing couple of years for you, isn't it?
Well, I think so. I'm very excited about it, and I think we will. We have gathered a very good team, and who have huge experience in this area. They've been doing it for years, and I'm going to be learning new things from them.
Every day, right?
Yes.
And I understand you have maybe 10 doctors that'll be associated.
We have right now 5, but we are adding more and more every day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And as I understand, it's a very international group. You have people from a lot of different countries.
absolutely. We
Yeah.
have people from India. We have people from England. A couple of people, and those who have been here, and they will be joining us, and they're already committed. And all we have to just get the lab going.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had a couple more hours because it's such a fascinating.
It is a very
field,
interesting
yeah.
field, and not only interesting, it's so exciting. It's unbelievable.
Well, we'll have you back, especially to
Thank you.
announce the grand
Yes.
opening. And
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing
You're
with us. It's just been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same station. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.